Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everyone. How are you? Thank you very much for joining us today. I know it's pretty late. You might like to go to the beach or something, but we really appreciate that you stick with us for a little bit longer because we are here to celebrate 2020 Pride. Yay! We have a lot of people from many different locations. It's a global event, so thank you very much for joining us wherever you are. Yes, so let's bring back this presentation. Yeah, I like how I move like from one place to another. So yes, as I said, we are going here to celebrate Pride in Adevinta. Yes. I would like to take a few minutes to introduce a little bit the format of the event of today and to tell you a bit more what this means for all of us. So first thing is this is the first global LGBTQ plus Pride that we celebrate in Adevinta. As all of you know, especially the ones that belong to the community, June is the Pride Month, and it's a month that is usually to raise awareness about different topics. As you know, like we are like raising awareness about trans community, sexual same-sex equality and things like that. So yeah, so I think it's very important sometimes to think about people like us that we are lucky to be able to speak up, right? Because there's some others that they don't have their voices heard. So it's also a time for reflection. 2020 is certainly been a tough year. I don't know if you agree, but yeah, it strike harder, right? And with things like COVID, all this reclusion that we had and all this confinement and the events that trigger a Black Lives Matters movement. So, well, tough year. So sometimes it's good also to stop a little bit and acknowledge that there's certainly things that we have to change and need to change, right? And one of those things was a little bit this community, this Adevinta LGBTQ plus community that was meant to be a safe space for people from the community within the company, where they can be whoever they want and whoever they are. And we know that some of our colleagues in other countries, they are not as lucky as others because in their countries, belonging to the LGBTQ plus community is still a problem. So yes, please, you know that our hearts are with you, and I hope you join us today to celebrate this special time together, because that's the point of all of this, right? We are celebrating our differences, but together. So once again, thank you very much. Be very welcome to this first LGBTQ plus Pride 2020 global, all of us together, which is very nice. And now I'm going to drive you a little bit about the agenda of today. So as I mentioned, we are celebrating Pride, and we are going to have few people today joining me and joining us, all the audience. And some of us are here with me physically. You don't see them now. They are hiding somewhere, but they are here physically. Believe me, social distancing. And some others are abroad. So I'm going to tell you a little bit how, oh, hello, someone is, oh, hearts. Thank you very much for the people in the chat. It's very important that you stick to the chat in YouTube and you are a little bit active there too, because I have something to tell you about it, but let me go through the agenda first. So first stop will be Rachel. Rachel is in Ireland right now, and she is going to introduce us, the Changemakers communities. And listen carefully to what Rachel is going to say, because she has few surprises for all of you. Then we will be connecting with Daniel Gallagher. Daniel Gallagher, which has a name that doesn't look very Italian, is connecting us today from Milano. And he's going to talk about his experiences coming out in work environments. Then we will have Pier Marco. Pier Marco is here with me today, but you don't see him, as I said before. He is going to show us a use case from Fotocasa, which is the vertical real estate marketplace in Spain, one of the ones we have. And he's going to show us this use case from the insights point of view, and also recall us about pride facts about mathematicians, which I find very interesting. Then we will have also Gabriel Vicario, which is connecting us from Mexico today. And Gabriel Marco is going to tell us what's the T. What's the T, but not like among your colleagues or anything. What's the T on LGBT? So he will elaborate also a little bit about gender spectrum. And last but not least, we will have Paqui Calabria, that is joining us from Barcelona as well. And she will tell us about her experiences working with testing things with different browsers with Source Labs. The format is going to be that they are going to have some time to present and to tell us their story, and then we will allocate a little bit of time at the end of the session for you to ask them questions directly. That's why I was saying that the YouTube chat is very important. So if you have questions for the speakers, please do share them with us in the chat. We will try to pop them up here in this streaming, and they will be answered live. If there's too many questions, which I hope you ask a lot of questions, because the content is interesting, we will take them up and come back to you later if we don't have time enough for everybody. You see also, well, finally, we will be wrapping up the session, and you see also that in between the speakers that I haven't mentioned, but there's also some we will be also introducing the people behind the scenes, the people behind the LGBTQ community, which I'm proud of being part of. And we will also have the other community members. Did I introduce myself? I don't remember. So I will do it now. So I'm Miguel Angel Rodriguez, and I will be your host today. I'm UX designer in Adevinta, and I will be your host today. Sorry, I forgot about it. Yes. So I think that we can jump now to the core of this meetup, which is, of course, our speakers. So hello, everyone. How are you?
Hi.
Oh, I feel like the Eurovision Song Contest, right? Okay, so we are saying hello to Daniel from, he's from Scotland, but he's joining us today from Milano in Italy. Hello, Daniel.
Hi there.
Hello. So we are going to jump directly into the meetup. So I will be handing over Daniel right now, with his presentation. And yeah, looking forward to hear you, Daniel.
Okay, here we go. And there we are. Okay, hello. Yep, as said, I'm Daniel Gallagher. I'm a software engineer for Subito here in Milan, in Italy. We're the global marketplace in Italy. I'm gay, and today I'm going to be talking about what it's been like for me to come out professionally, specifically focusing on my experience in Subito, but a lot of the things are kind of general. Just as a quick preface to this, there are no animations in this presentation at all, nothing moving. There's just a couple of images and then mainly text. So I'm just going to start. This is me. This is me when I looked better than I do now, because last year I didn't have the buzz cut that I did during the quarantine. I have been a software engineer in Adevinta since 2019. I moved here from BBC Scotland in Glasgow, directly into Milan in Italy. I interviewed here last year, found a job online, came for the first interview when you could come to other countries to the interviews, which now seems like an incredibly luxurious thing. But I did the interviews, really interested in the job, so that I could definitely grow here. and I always wanted to move internationally, at least since I can remember. And when I had that opportunity, I really, really wanted to take it. Unfortunately, I didn't take the opportunity to learn how to tie a tie, as you can see in those pictures, but never mind. So I got the offer, I'm here. I packed my entire life up in a month, which meant telling my family that I was leaving, which was quite difficult. It meant breaking up with my friends, which was very difficult as well. And it also meant leaving behind the 5 dogs that live with my parents, which was the most difficult thing, because I find that I can call them and basically keep in touch. You can't really keep in touch with animals in the same way. So that's the saddest thing about moving. But I'm very happy to be here, and since I've been here, I've been placed in the ad out team of Subito, who work on principally on the listing and the ad detail pages, so the content display, and also for the search, which is actually our new name. When I joined, we had a big project underway that had a fixed deadline, and having that structure and that pressure meant that the team bonded quite well. We had a lot to do. There wasn't really any opportunity not to bond and work together. So I integrated into the team pretty quickly, and joined in with everything that I could in the company, settled in pretty well. I think I did my best. And I've studied Italian since I moved here as well, which I knew would be really important. I actually signed up for the company Italian training just on my second day, because I'd made it clear it was something I wanted to do. But this isn't specifically about me. Talking about coming out in professional environments, there are a huge number of ways that you can do that, basically. This isn't like a guide, it's just a description of what I did. So the first thing that I did when I came out was just to test sort of the water, metaphorically, the reaction that I could get. And I'm just checking my phone in case those Slack messages are about this presentation. When I was on, no, it's not. When I was on a conference trip with a number of my colleagues in Berlin last year, a chance came up in the conversation. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was someone was asking about who I lived with or why I came to Italy or something like that. And it's one of those chances where you can either take it or not take it. And I was like, oh, I actually have a boyfriend, or oh, I'm gay, something like that. And the reaction was like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. And great. So fine, no problem. That's great. So it seems to me everything's going to go fine. The next thing really to do in terms of coming out, it's not just, I've not told a few people. It's not like I'm confiding in them. It's something I wanted to open up about. So it's something that needs to, not be a secret anymore. And there are a lot of ways to do that. A lot of ways to make something not a secret. The way that I approached this was kind of just to tell enough people that it becomes something that isn't unknown. And if you tell enough people effectively, then anytime someone doesn't know, you can just tell that person directly. It's not going to be a surprise to the rest of the group. The way I did this was not necessarily the best way, nor the most professional thing I've ever done, but it worked. After the company Christmas party, I was at an after party at the apartment of one of my colleagues with quite a lot of other people, a reasonable number of other people. And I had what I'm going to call in this talk a number of drinks. And I was just wildly confident about it, and just was like, oh, I'm gay, to everyone. And most people were like, oh, okay. And I just was talking a lot about myself, because I was quite happy to share this. I wasn't necessarily in a workplace state of mind. It's fine. It was a Saturday morning. By that point, everyone there knew, certainly, because I told absolutely every single person. And it's just something that, this is done now. I'm out at work now. So, okay, is that it? No. No. If things were exactly as easy as that, then we wouldn't really need to have events like this. Then it wouldn't be interesting to anyone to do a talk on what it's like to come out in a professional environment. Although I would be perfectly happy to talk all about myself. Anyway, the part that I missed out in that quick retelling was that I joined Subito in May, and the conference where I came out to those first people was in November, which was just over 6 months later. And then the Christmas party obviously was in December, where it was more general. But 6 months was a really long time for me to be closeted again, having been out completely at work before I moved. And that was quite a difficult experience, actually. But I'm going to go on now and talk about why that happened, but also what that looks like from my perspective, but in a sort of a general-ish perspective. I think there are a lot of things that are in common with other people. So, I mean, this slide kind of speaks for itself, but it's the thing to kind of get across is that coming out is something that never actually finishes for someone who's LGBTQ. Every new person that you meet is probably going to assume that you're not LGBTQ, and then you have to correct that impression. And the time between meeting someone and telling them that can vary hugely. Obviously, there are people for whom it never happens. Other times it's quite short, it could be longer, maybe it's weeks, maybe it's months, or it really is, it's very case by case. But something that I think is generally true, although applies in different ways in different circumstances, is that the time it takes before someone comes out is up to whether or not they think they're going to face any consequences for that, and if they think they're going to be able to manage those consequences. And on this slide, and I know that there are some of my colleagues have joined from Subito, something I want to make really clear is that nothing ever happened when I was in Subito that made me think I was going to face problems or consequences. I'm not saying anything here that's about any particular person, not at all. The thing I'm talking about is that homophobia is real, it's out there, but it's a pretty insidious thing, and very often it lives in the background. You don't always see it until it's actually come out to target something. So it doesn't have anything to strike. You don't know necessarily that it's there. So although I never ever heard any negative conversations, not hearing something it's not evidence of anything necessarily. It's not safe to judge not hearing anything negative as the presence of like a positive attitude or acceptance. Homophobia can very often affect people in ways that you don't see right away, or you might not see them at all, or you only see them if you're attuned to those sort of dog whistle behaviors. Like a classic one in a professional situation is the performance improvement plan that's literally not possible for you to pass, which is basically how you fire people for being gay or for any sort of discriminatory method. On paper, it's not for a discriminatory method, but you can set a PIP that's not possible for someone to pass. That's kind of the classic way of being fired over 3 months for being gay. There are worse consequences as well. I mean, there are people who are LGBTQ are attacked and killed all over the world, but here at home as well. I mean, even just today, I saw a story about an attack on some teenagers in Rome. So there are always these things to worry about. Like, this is in the back of my mind all the time when I have to come out, which is at least once per person that I meet. But apart from, I mean, those are tragic outcomes, and those are really, really at a level where I didn't expect anything like that from work, really, in any case. But something that I have always had this like irrational fear of is being stuck on a team with a colleague that I know hates me and not being able to do anything about that. And again, that was not an impression I got from many of my colleagues. It's just something that I've had to pick up during my life, because that would be a hard thing to put up with, I think. And kind of what I'm saying here is that silence, when you don't really hear people speak about this topic at all, it does say something. It doesn't say that you're in a bad position, and it doesn't say that you're going to be in a bad position, but it says, at least to me, what it said was that I was probably going to be taking a little bit of a risk. It was kind of going to be on me to try and brave this. I wasn't sure of what to expect. And that's something that you do get over always, to greater or lesser degrees. Either you do what I've had to do in past jobs. I had 2 jobs where, having read the room, which is what I've said here, gauged the environment of the company, I decided that I'm not going to come out here, and I just cut that part off, and I don't bother about it. It keeps a distance from the bosses and the colleagues and stuff, but I felt that that was the best thing to do for myself. Or in other places like where I worked before, you can come out in a good enough way, maybe to a team environment where you feel like it's going to be fine, and then it becomes like general knowledge, and then you don't have to worry about it, and then you change job and all of that goes back to zero, and you have to do the whole thing again. And I'd done this 4 times in Scotland, but then when I moved here, it wasn't just a new job, it was also a new country and a new language at the same time, and it took a little bit of time for my social skills to adjust to Italy and Italian norms, even when speaking in English with my colleagues, because there is a cultural difference that is, even when you have a common language, that needs to be navigated. So it took a little while for me to get attuned to how things were going to be. And while I was doing that, what does that look like when someone is doing that process? When I was processing whether or not to come out, what does that look like? Honestly, it looks pretty bad, I think. When I think about what I behaved like, I don't like it. It's like, my sexuality to me is something that really influences, like, at least the way I see the world, and from a lot of ways, from the experiences I've had, just to the fact that the assumptions that I make are maybe different from the assumptions other people make, because I bear this in mind that something could be different for people. But when I have to kind of cut that off because I'm not sure about sharing it, it means that I have to hold back a lot of information about my personal life. I moved here to live with a guy, and that meant I couldn't really talk about where I lived in a lot of detail, because I was scared to let some aspect through that wouldn't make sense if I wasn't gay, and then have to come out when I wasn't really up for it, which basically means lying. Lying by omission, at least, is what I've done. I've never ever made anything up to anyone, but I leave details out. And that is a quite difficult thing to do. You have to put a lot of effort into that, but also means that you have to cut off conversations your colleagues might have with you, casual ones. What have you done at the weekend? What are you going to do at the weekend? Or, where do you live? Do you live with other people? You have to give really specifically crafted answers to make sure you don't let any of the other information leak through that might make this not make sense. And I think that it makes you seem boring. I think I definitely gave the impression that I wasn't really interested, because I didn't ask an awful lot about my colleagues, because there was too much that I didn't want to open up about. And that's not great for trying to integrate into a team, which I wanted to do. I just needed some time to kind of get used to this. But the thing that makes that really the most difficult is that it isn't like it's an awkward conversation. Like, maybe coming out to your parents is something that could be an awkward conversation. At least I was lucky that it was kind of a one-off thing, and then it happened. Keeping this information back is an everyday work. Like, every conversation you have in a social sort of environment needs to be filtered, and you need to transform what you're saying between your thoughts and what you say, so that you don't accidentally use, in my case, a masculine pronoun like he, because that he doesn't necessarily make sense in the story I'm telling. Don't mention too many names, because it might become tricky to leave people out and keep the story consistent. And you just tell this really partial version of your life that you have to hold together without letting the wrong stuff slip through. And that's something that you do, and it's something that you do because you're worried about whether or not the alternative could be even worse. And in general, it could be. Like, there are people who do have bad outcomes from this. I am not one of them. Everything was absolutely fine for me. My colleagues have been totally relaxed, really, really accepting. and I absolutely could not have asked for more from anyone. And I don't. I'm perfectly happy with the way that things have gone. The outcome that I see is, I'm saying fine in a good sense, not like the English sort of fake sense. I am fine. The thing is that I would always have been fine. I'm now out after 6-7 months, but I could have been out after, I don't know, a week or a month maybe, when I could adjust to it. And the thing that would have really been amazing for me was if I had been able to know that sooner. And there were a couple of things from sort of the corporate side when I joined last year that made me not quite sure about that. Like this time last year, we didn't have the LGBTQ network in Adevinta, so I didn't have anyone to talk to about this topic, which is something that I missed. Which wasn't necessarily a negative thing; it was kind of neutral, but it did make me think maybe the company doesn't deal with this as an issue. I don't know. Certainly, it made me feel like it was going to be something I was going to have to do solo. And I felt like it was a shame not to hear like even an internal message from Adevinta last year, or from a part of Adevinta last year, even internally. The impression that I got was that I was going to have to kind of deal with this as an issue on my own, which meant that it really rested on how willing I was to test what I thought was going to be the case, with the social skills that I was still adjusting. But actually, it was all fine. Like, it was great. It's one of the best experiences I've had professionally has been here, and it was kind of just marred by that uncertainty. And I think the big thing that we can be happy with is that it seems like, and I would say certainly from my experience in Subito, we are already doing the difficult stuff, which is making the culture open and accepting to people. We've got teams who stand up for each other and make a good workplace, and we've got people who care about the culture, like the organisers in this event and the change makers who participate in the initiative, who want to make that culture even better. And I think just the thing that was missing last year for me, which I can see, I'm at this event, so we're doing it better now, is just flying the flag to show off that we do this stuff and we get that right. Something that I've seen from the messaging this year from Adevinta on LinkedIn, part of one of the posts was a phrase that says, everybody belongs at Adevinta, which I really, really liked. And I think we're taking this stuff forward. It's important that we make sure everyone here does know that, in case there are other people who are still in the position that I was in. Because if I'd known absolutely, like I do now, that everything was going to be all right, and that period of uncertainty was cut a lot shorter, it would have been a much better sort of entry for me, even though now at the end, I'm perfectly happy with it. But I think the best way that we can improve on that is by paying that forward. Like, we've done this now, we've gotten the gains internally. I think we can pay that forward to the people that join us in the future, so that we can get to a certain point where people don't have to go through that type of weight. And I think if we could make that happen for everyone who joins us, that's something we could be really proud of. So thank you for listening.
Yes, of course. Oh, that was very inspiring. Thank you very much for sharing your story, Daniel. I think that all of us, we see ourselves in your shoes, and pretty sure that we all struggle. And I think it's very interesting something you said about you have to come out all your life, no? Like, every time you meet someone else, you have to come out, no? So I think we all stick with this idea of feeling safe and feeling comfortable, like, to come out. But I was wondering, I'm pretty sure that the audience is also wondering, so if you join in May and you came out to the whole company in December in the party, how did you do it? In Italian, in English?
Yeah. I did it in Italian, and part of the reason why I don't remember this in incredible detail is because all of my memories of Italian are like concepts, and then when I think about them, I hear them in English, so it's hard for me to remember the specifics. But I also had, we got 2 drinks tokens at the party, and I had more than 2 drinks. So my Italian was kind of lubricated by the alcohol. So I was speaking a lot more with a lot less sort of hesitation. And then this is not a good story. It's fine. I mean, it's safe for work and all that. It's just this isn't a good strategy. We were at the apartment, and there was a lot of decoration of in the kitchen. I think it was like vinyl covers of like 4 or 5 Madonna albums. And I sort of jokingly said, like, "Oh, is one of your flatmates gay?" And the guy said, "Oh, no, the landlord is." And I was like, "Oh my God, so am I." And then kind of like that, just opened the conversation and went out to it. It was an after party. It wasn't at the main event. So we were in about 20, 25 people. It wasn't like the 600 of the company. But it wasn't. But the Italian...
I picture you like grabbing the microphone in the stage of the whole company party and saying, "Yeah, here I am."
We could have got there eventually. It's not impossible. Look, the Italian word for gay is gay, so at least that wasn't hard to translate.
That's easy to remember, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. We really appreciate your story. As I mentioned, I'm pretty sure a lot of people will see ourselves in your shoes. Do we have some questions for Daniel? Great story. Thank you. Proud of working with you, Dan.
Thanks, Herminia. Herminia is the Scrum Master on my team.
Oh, nice. Marcia shares the rainbow flag. Yeah, we have a few here. So, yeah. Okay. So thank you for sharing, Elisa. Okay. So if there's no more questions, thank you again to Daniel. If there's some questions for
you're very welcome. Yep.
You can pop them up on the chat and we will send them to you. So I hope that in this little space that we are opening today, you find a place to express yourself and of course, to speak up. Okay, thank you very much. So you might have noticed, right? Yes, you might have noticed that, I read you the whole agenda and I told you, listen carefully to Rachel. And then I saw Daniel and I got so excited. I left Daniel just jumping and I totally forgot about Rachel. So apologies and very sorry, Rachel. But no, Rachel has something important to tell you. Hello, Rachel.
I'm just wiping away the tears from being ignored, Miguel.
I thought because of Daniel's story.
Yeah, I do. I love the flags behind you. The office looks great.
Yeah, this is the new Adevinta LGBTQ meeting room. No, I'm kidding. We have to push for it maybe next year.
Well, actually, in Ireland, we had an interview before and someone flew over for it and the interview went really well. And it was last June. And when they came out, they saw a pride flag and they said, if I work here, do I have to believe in that? And we wouldn't have known that they were very anti-LGBT until they said that. So we now keep a little flag at reception so that everyone knows that they have to abide by their
a very good strategy. We do have one over my team, and I've seen like few of them around the office. But yeah, it's something I will tell some people from the decoration. Yeah. So yeah, as I said before, I'm sorry I did skip you. So now is your time. Let us know, what do you have to tell us? Where are you in Ireland?
I'm in Dublin. So it's commonly known as the best place in the world. I'm not sure if you knew that.
With the best weather.
Not down anywhere, it's the best. Except that there's no pubs.
Okay, so handing over to you.
Thank you. So hi everyone, I'm Rachel and I'm the lead changemaker, and I'm not sure if you all know who we are, but the Changemakers is a peer-led grassroots group, and we are really passionate about diversity and making people belong, like Daniel was saying. And we're really excited about this LGBT committee and community being officially created this year, because it will be a really great source of support for people. But I also think it's going to be a really great source of innovation, because when you get all people together together, it gives like a really strong voice to this group. So I'm really looking forward to the projects that's coming up, and also to the rest of the speakers. I really enjoyed Daniel's anyway so far. But I actually have a really fun job, and I'm going to announce some competition and raffle prizes. So I'll start with the first. There are really good topics coming up today, and we want to hear from you. So please write comments and questions and ideas into the text box. The more the merrier. Keep them coming. And if you do that, you'll be in a raffle to win a really cool prize. And it's a bespoke piece made by a supplier on Etsy. And it's a really unique and cool way to have the rainbow displayed in your house. So the more comments you make, the better your chances, which I'm actually not sure if that's true, but just keep pushing the comments in, because we really want to hear what your opinions are and what you're thinking about what people are saying. But you could also even tell us how you're going to celebrate Pride at home. And that leads into my second part, which you might have heard that there's a competition running for submitting photos or videos on how you're celebrating Pride at home. So you could be baking a beautiful rainbow cake, or dressing up yourself, your dog. I mean, I might try my cat, but I don't think it's going to work very well. Or you could be donating to a charity. Like, obviously June is such an important month for LGBT plus charities and for fundraising. So if you do that, that's an absolutely amazing application. There's a link in the description on the YouTube page here of how to submit it. So you have to get it in by the 12th of July, and the following week we'll pick a winner, and you'll be getting a really cool hamper. So the raffle winner from today and the competition for the pictures and photos, we're going to be posting them, so it can come from anywhere in the world. So there's nothing holding you back. We really want to see your pictures and send them in to us, because we'd love to see what you're up to. I mean, we're all together when we're separate, and I think people are coming up with some pretty creative ways of celebrating, so send them in. But I also wanted to mention as well that I'm sure many of you have heard, or maybe some haven't, that Global Pride is on Saturday. So it's going to be a 26-hour streamed event, and it starts, I think it's 7 a.m. Spanish time, which is pretty early, but it goes for a while. And you're going to get amazing speakers and singers. I think there's going to be the Village people are going to be there, Mel C from Spice Girls. There's going to be politicians and activists and thinkers and speakers. So it's just going to be really, really cool. So I know I'm going to get up Saturday morning, get dressed up and have a couple of drinks, like Daniel was mentioned. I can't remember exactly how you phrased it, but a select number of drinks. I'll be doing that then. And I'm sure I'll be sending in some pictures myself to the group. But that's all from me. I'm really looking forward to the rest of this talk, and I hope you are too. Thank you.
Oops, sorry. Where did I go? Oh, sorry. Thank you very much, Rachel. So in short, there's a raffle with the people that is commenting right now live in this meetup, in the chat in YouTube. We are catching your names. You will enter in that raffle automatically. And there's a prize, a second prize, that for the people that share with us their videos or pictures celebrating Pride. And you have until 12th of July to share this.
Yeah,
we will share. As I like to do this because I see all the YouTubers, like there's more things under in the description box. And yeah, we will be sharing it also in the Slack later, and probably in Adevinta Daily. Thank you very much, Rachel. Thank you for joining us and tell us these amazing prizes for everybody. Take care. Enjoy Pride. Okay. So yes, it was an interesting question on the chat that I want to bring back. That is what Bea Martinez is asking, what can we all do to make sure there is a safe environment for you to come out? That's a very good question. I don't know if someone has the answer, but yeah, I think that just questioning this and questioning this to ourselves, it brings something to think about, right? Thank you, Beatriz. You can keep posting your questions. If Daniel later wants to reply to this, he can do it. We will reach out. So we are going to introduce our first LGBT Adevinta plus whatever member right now. His name is Adria Velardos. Hello, Adria. How are you?
I'm fine.
You're fine. Nice. We are very fine also and happy to see you. Thank you for joining today. Adrian is also the producer of this show, but this is something I will mention later. So, yeah, Adrian, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do in Adevinta?
Well, I've been working in Adevinta for 4 years now, so it's been a long trip as a front-end engineer, specifically in a real estate marketplace from Spain called Habitacle. And that's all about.
Habitacle, for those doesn't know, is the other vertical in Spain for real estate. So, what does it mean for you to be a part of this community we are kicking off, the LGBTQ plus community in Adevinta?
Well, I've been the last addition to the community foundation, and I think it's really good. I feel honored to help on everything it's in my hands to make grow the community and organize events to feel united, although being around the globe. And I think initiatives like these are good start to improve inclusion and diversity in Adevinta, working hand in hand with change makers.
Yes. How do you think we can exactly do this, like increase this inclusion, this feeling that people feel comfortable to come out if they have to within the company?
Well, I think sharing in social media initiatives like these, or even our verticals to have publicity or advertisement, including all kinds of families or whatever, it's a way to make it. I mean, if someone sees it in YouTube or in TV, will probably think, oh, I want to work there, and maybe it's a safe place. So I think that's one way. The other one is what Rachel was talking about, that have a flag maybe or something that when you enter, you know that it's a good space. But I think also a company needs to have a foundation or somewhere that where you have all the I don't know the word now, but
like to have like a base, no, like to have like something to build on.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Nice stuff. So you know, it's normal, right? We go back to the street and we have to wear masks to go and be inside a bar, which is a little bit concerning, but also disturbing. So tell me, what are your plans to celebrate Pride 2020?
Yeah, it's been an odd year. For the first time that I can remember, we haven't been able to make a lot of things as each other or celebrate Pride as usual. But I really don't know, besides being here with you today, I will do, but at the end, it's celebrate life with your beloveds. So
that's certainly true. That's the most important at the end. Is pride is being able of celebrate it, no? Like the form, it doesn't matter. You can just crash in your couch and watch a show in Netflix. That's also a part of the celebration. Okay, thank you very much. Adrián, do you want to say something else to our audience?
Yes, I always wanted to say on camera, besides saying hi to my mom and all stuff, my 12 points go to Italy for Daniel because it was a really good speech. And that's all.
Oh, 12 points to Italy. Good. Thank you very much, Adrián. Have a happy Pride and see you. Okay, so we are going to jump to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Pier Marco Milione. I hope I pronounce it properly. Hello, Pier Marco. How are you?
I'm very good. Hi, Miguel.
Hello.
Let's start.
I don't know where you are.
I'm in your left in real life.
Yeah, some people didn't go very far.
Social distancing.
Yeah, we are keeping the social distance. So, hello, Pier Marco. I'm handing over directly to you. Thank you.
I'm going to share my screen. Wait. A ver, vamos. Bien, ¿no? Okay, so let's start with this use case from Fotocasa, as we already said, and something related also to math and how much I am proud of being a mathematician. So first of all, I'm introducing myself. I'm coming from academia. I'm Pier Marco. I first had this 4 years PhD mathematics, like very long, and then 2 years in pure and applied maths. I was losing my mind, and no, that's a joke. And then 2 years ago, 2 years and a half ago now, I decided to jump into the business world, the real world, the way people from academia used to call it. And guess what? I was struggling. Oh no, not yet. I was struggling a lot because I went to job interviews, and people were like, okay, yeah, you have a PhD, that's good, you can, code and blah, 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 but you did some, pure math, we cannot really understand the title of your thesis, of course, and you work with prime number cryptography, what the hell, and are you sure you can integrate within a team and blah, blah, blah. So I have to prove myself again, like in life, right? You always have to prove something just to prove something. So I proved that I enjoy dancing flamenco, right? So I say to people, no, look, I'm not that mathematician from the movie, I studied a lot of years mathematics, but I can dance with an abanico, which is the Spanish word for fun. And so this makes me at least more normal than what a mathematician is considered to be. So eventually I find a job. Actually, the first job was in Accenture, which is not like the most funny company in the world, even if it's an amazing company. So whatever. Then 10 months ago, I joined Adevinta, right? And just 10 months ago, it's so close in time. And particularly, I joined the real estate vertical, which is Fotocasa and Abitaclia, where Adrian works. I know Adrian very well, but now I'm nervous and I forgot his name. And I'm part of the Spanish Insights community. We are over 40 people passionate about analytics, data visualization, and data science. And what we do within our verticals in Spain, we transform data into actionable insights. And we are also very fun. For example, on the right, you can see part of the team I work with. There's also my manager, the girl on the right, Laura Marquez. She's actually a mathematician like myself. So we are really like a good team, right? And so why I want to talk to you about this use case that we had in Fotocasa, it's just, let's say, just an example. It's just a start point to me to give you a reflection about visibility, okay? So first of all, let's recall why we need a segmentation. So if you all work at Adevinta, which are basically marketplace all over the world, you are probably very familiar with the concept of segment users and why we need a segmentation, right? We want more leads, we want more visits, we want to be leader with our brand, and also we want to have an amazing user experience, right? So segmentation is a way of personalize the message, and so obtain all of these things for all the different audiences that we have in our marketplaces. So how we did this, and I don't want to go into details, and I don't want to bother you, just want to give you an idea of what for me is the a way of talking about visibility. Okay, so let's start. Let's start about what is explainable machine learning, right? So I gave I take data, and so these are 1 million Android users that visited our app, and they are represented by 96 actions that they can do in an app. So finally, this is a table. This is a table that you see here, right? And I give this table to an algorithm. It's a clustering algorithm. And this algorithm finds 8 segments out of this over 1 million rows table with 96 columns, right? So, I mean, I say right, but maybe, I don't know, business people, in the business world, in the real life, we don't understand it. No, it's too complicated. So what is this about? So, we can apply other algorithms that make this, let's say, make the machine learning more explainable, right? And so in this case, we applied an algorithm that is called uniform manifold approximation, which is based on very deep mathematical results, the same results done by these weird people I used to work with several years ago. And so this algorithm, what does, it takes this over 90-dimensional space and compress it into just 2 dimensions. So you can represent, you can represent basically the users that are visiting your apps. And so you can also see how the clustering algorithm segmented this user. So you can see how the matching, it sees this big table just in 2 dimensions. And so this is the picture that you have on the right, right? So each color is a cluster. And so you can clearly see that cluster is a group of users that are close each to the other. And all of this is possible thanks to mathematics, which I love. So here is where my reflection about visibility starts, right? It's a little bit, let's say, conceptual, abstract, but I'm still a mathematician, so I sometimes I am abstract. I lose myself in this like very Pindaric idea association. So we start with the importance of maths in real life, then the importance of women in mathematics, and then we go to a very big importance. I don't know if it exists, this word, but the importance of diversity in all the world, not only in maths. And so what happens here? It happens that, okay, in mathematics are important in real life, but researching pure and applied maths often felt as disconnected from real life, too abstract, and maybe not so useful to the business. Importance of women in maths, we all agree about that, but only 34% of female maths faculty members in Spain, 27% back in science, 21% women with a PhD in mathematics, and this is data from the US, and only 8% senior professor in the US. And we have only 1 field medal, female mathematician, and 1 Abel Prize from 2014, and the Abel Prize is from 2019. If you don't know what is the Abel Prize and the field medal, basically they are the same as the Nobel Prize for mathematics. One is for younger mathematician, and the other one is for older one. So can you imagine that the first Nobel Prize in mathematics was given to a woman just in 2019, right? We are far behind where we would like to be. And then the importance of diversity in the world. What is happening there? But a mess, right? Because I was looking for data, and 38% of worldwide countries still criminalize homosexuality. And not all of them are the so considered underdeveloped country. I don't know, for example, Singapore, where I also used to live for a short time. 15% of country, only 15% made same-sex marriage legal, right? So yeah, so what's happening with these three balls? With mathematics, we are on a good tracks with the importance of mathematics in real life. With women in maths, we are working in progress. We are still not there. And with diversity in the world, we have a lot of work to do. Why? In mathematics, now mathematics are demanded on the market, right? And as I showed you, I showed you deep results from mathematics that I managed to use to deliver insights that are used to develop a good product in Photocasa. So mathematics are okay now. They have their visibility. It's this big ball represent the visibility that they finally have in the real world, and I'm proud of it. For women in math, the ball is a little bit smaller, right? There are associations in mathematics, for example, in general, in tech and in science, in the university, that they boost the development of young female mathematicians in research. And there are also gender equality and positive discrimination in the agenda of domain companies, right? Like in Adevinta, for example, we have a positive discrimination policy. And what about diversity in the real world? Well, that's still a lot of work to do. Of course, there are things, but they're really small, isolated. We are still not there. We are still not capable of really explain the importance of why we need diversity in all fields of knowledge. So ending my reflection on visibility, I want to iterate again that I'm proud of maths. I am proud of being a mathematician, and I'm proud of mathematics and the way they can change the world. I'm proud of all my female mathematician friends, colleagues, my PhD advisor, who happened to be the first women to hold a PhD mathematics in Spain. And the fact that these women are struggling the double to reach the same success as their male peers. And finally, I'm proud of being a gay mathematician in the real world, in the real business world. And also I'm proud of, of having this space of freedom to raise my voice and to share these somehow crazy thoughts with you, right? So thank you.
We're applauding. Thank you very much, Marco. That was very, that was very inspiring. And it's close to me. That's why I'm looking at it. Yeah, you can come here. Change the camera, Adria. We are breaking the social distance. I don't know if there's questions in the chat, but maybe you can bring them up if they pop up. But it's true that so first things first, what is this thing with the abanico and the flamenco?
It actually was after a conference in university. Was my last conference before abandoning the academia. Okay. In Valencia, actually. It was in a karaoke. It was also lubricated by some drink. As
okay, I think that you use there's a lot of lubrication today. Yeah, coming up. Okay. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. I do agree. So it caught my attention. Like, it's true, when you put these numbers together, is sometimes a little bit is when you realize the real impact. For example, 38% of countries worldwide still criminalize homosexuality, and 15% with same-sex marriage. It's very, very. How do you? So people like you is the ones that make possible that people like us, like that, we can see this, like this data. And I like that you mentioned that you were proud of being a mathematician. So what do you think like we can keep improving those numbers?
I mean, I'm Italian, and in Italy we legalized. Sorry, the microphone. Yeah, here. Okay, so it's like. I'm Italian. For example, in Italy, we legalized something like same-sex marriage, but we didn't call marriage. So really, I'm coming from, for example, from a country that I'm not particularly proud of on this particular aspect. Yeah, at the same time, I'm very lucky. You know, as a person, I always been lucky in my life. But yeah, the fact that I'm lucky doesn't mean that, you know, it's not fair. People cannot marriage, or if I have to marriage, I have to call it with a different name. Why? Because they don't want me to adopt a child. What the fuck?
Right.
So, you know, what we can do, I don't know. We should speak at least. And yeah, that's why reflection about visibility, right? Because I'm happy, I'm lucky, but if I don't speak, nobody's going to change. Of course, there's more about activism that can be done.
That's
sure,
right.
not only speaking.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. So we don't have more questions. Thank you very much, Pier Marco, for your time and your presentation. That's awesome. Yes, you can still pop up your questions if you want in the chat. We will get them later. Yeah, nice stuff. So we are going to jump to our next LGBTQ plus community in Adevinta member. His name is Carlos Callejo. He's very close to me as well. So, okay, apparently only 62% of the LGBT people in Italy never or hardly ever come out. Yeah, that happens. That's what we were trying to say, you know, that some of our colleagues in different countries in Adevinta, they don't have things easy, right? So thank you, Daniel, for sharing. So hello, Carlos. How are you?
Fine.
You're fine. Yeah, nice.
So we have to share the microphone, right?
Oh yeah, we have to sort the microphone.
I guess so.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
How do we do?
Okay. Okay. I don't know if you can listen to me. Okay.
Can you listen? Yeah. Okay.
We had you don't see, but we had the producers like taking care of us, like the producer Adria taking care of the show. So I was saying that hello, Carlos. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what do you do in the company?
I'm Carlos Callejo. I'm 28 years old. I've been at Adevinta for 9 months, and I'm a data scientist in strategy and enablement team. So this is Central Adevinta. Yeah, I'm a data scientist, so I do like collaboration projects with our marketplaces. So, for example, right now I have a project with Subito, another one with Jofogas, and also like a small one in InfoJobs in Spain, which is the jobs vertical. And yeah, like that's me. I'm a founder of this. Well, I don't want to call it like that, but but we kind of push a bit in the beginning this to make it happen. So
yeah, that's true. So so as a founder of this small community, what push you? No, what motivates you to be a founder of this community, to be part of it?
In the beginning, it was like, for me, it was a bit really shocking that in a company this big, we didn't really have anything. Of course, I think last year, like there was some. I think there was nothing for the Pride or anything. Like there was no community, and this opportunity appeared, and I took it. And for me, it was like I never done any community in my life, and I think this was like a really good chance to know how to do this, maybe to make events, to do something for all of us, right?
To learn, but also to add value to the place you are working on. No? And how do you think we can improve this inclusion within the company?
So at least what we want, we're gonna do actually. We want to do events from all over the year. We don't kind of want to do something just for the Pride and forget, right? Because that could be something really like like marketing for the company, and we don't really want to do this. We actually create like a space, like a community, and create activities and share whatever we think. Just create a safe space and progress. Like personally, like well, I don't want to talk about myself, of course, but or at least I don't want to. But for example, for me, when I went out. When I went out to the closet,
when you came out?
When I came out, it was a bit tough. And my family was kind of like more into traditional side, and they didn't really understand it. It was such a drama, and I think there is a lot of job to do still. Some people think that there is not everything is fine, but actually it's not. I'm lucky. I'm from Madrid, so in Madrid is fine. In Barcelona is fine. But I'm talking about Spain, of course. But in the world, even in other parts of Spain, it's not. And there's still a lot of job to do, and we cannot all take part on this, right? We have an opportunity here in this company. We are big. We have a big scope, and I want to do as much as I can to make this happen.
That's very nice, especially for the people that come after us. No? So yeah, it was very nice. Tell me a little bit, what are your plans to celebrate Pride 2020?
So there is really nothing. Okay. I'm going to Madrid tomorrow because I miss my family and my friends, because I've been without them for like since Christmas or something. Because when this confinement thing started, I've been really lonely. So
send some love for Carlos, please.
Please send me love. I miss them, so I'm going tomorrow. I'm gonna take a 1 week holidays, and I'll be, just with them. Maybe go to a bar or something. Something simple, because
don't forget your mask. Don't forget.
Yeah, everything, of course.
Okay, you want to be is important. So, what's for you your LGBTQ reference? This celebrity symbol, or a movie that you saw, or a book that you read that inspired you to be?
So my references are not like from books or from like movies or actors or singers. It's more like I have some friends that are gay. They're openly gay, and for me, they're incredible people. They're really smart. They're really hard workers. They're really good friends of me. And for me, my references are like the close people I know, right? Not people I don't really have met or anything. But yeah, that's what I can say.
That's very nice.
I don't want to bore you anymore.
That's very nice. Looking for inspiration around you. People around you. Nice.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, Carlos. Nice to see you. Reach him out, send him love.
Please.
And we are going to jump. I take the microphone. So we are flying to Mexico. Mexico doesn't participate in Eurovision, as many of you know, but you will get your points as well, Gabriel. Hello, Gabriel from Mexico. How are you?
Hi, fine, thanks. How are you guys?
We are fine. We are getting our beer ready and enjoying this evening. So yeah, just hand over to you directly, Gabriel.
Okay, great. Let me share my screen. There you go. Okay, so the name of my presentation is What's the Tea? And for those of you who are not very fluent in gay slang, this is basically something that means when you have some gossip or some truth about something, right? So today I wanted to share with you what's the tea with the T in LGBTQ+, which is the trans community. And before that, I wanted to tell you a little bit about me. I'm head of data and insights at Segunda Mano Mexico. And since last year, I've been working here for almost 4 years now. And since last year, I became Changemaker representative. But even before this, I had always participated in some events for diversity and inclusion. And for me, that was like a super powerful message to I think it's like a cultural thing to understand that a company puts effort and time into this sort of activities. So I think that tells a lot about Adevinta and Shifted, and I think it's amazing. One other thing, I studied engineering physics, and this is more of a disclaimer because I am in no way an expert in gender or psychology or psychiatry or anything. So if there's anything in my presentation that you think that I got a bit wrong, please reach out to me. I'm always eager to learn and to know more and relearn things. So I've been out of the closet for 16 years now, which is more than half my life. I'm a proud bisexual queer man, and I mean it's been amazing to being able to be myself in the work environment. I have had the chance to work with LGBT+ collectives and feminist collectives, which is why I like to give this sort of topics, controversial topics, and to reach out in these things that matter a lot for me. Lastly, last year I married my husband, so I guess that means I'm legally gay now. And he works in Segunda Mano as well. He actually worked before me, so I didn't have that experience of like coming out like Daniel just told us. And it's been amazing, and I wanted to take this opportunity to say kudos and congratulations to Shifted, Adevinta, Segunda Mano for having this community where you feel accepted and where diversity really is our daily lives, right? So yeah, let's start. Before I go into what's the T, I wanted to go a bit on why I think this is an important topic right now. And I think there are three main points why I wanted to talk to you about the trans community today. The first one is because of visibility. So there's a lot of visibility right now around Pride, but it is mainly focused on the gay male experience, right? So there is little to no visibility on lesbian issues, and there is a lot of bisexual erasure, and trans community it's in the back of everything, right? Despite they have been in the history of the gay rights movement since the very beginning. So I think it's our duty or our responsibility to understand what are their needs, understand their history, and fight for the rights as they have always fight for the rights that we have to this day, right? And lastly and sadly, because of relevance, this figure is from last year. It's from the UK, and I think it's particularly sad because just a couple of weeks ago, a very prominent writer with a huge platform came out with some ideas, some personal ideas about this community that are very hurtful for the people who grew up with her. And while I won't be criticizing her feminism or her standpoint, I do think it's important when there are these sort of hard topics to have an informed opinion in order to take a stand, right? So that is why I think it's important to talk about the trans community in this specific time. And to start about talking about trans, I first wanted to go about some basic concepts around gender. So there's of course sexual and romantic orientation, which is basically whom are we attracted to. And while there are more orientations, it's mainly around lesbian, gay, and bisexual people, right? Then it comes, of course, sex, which is a biological category, and it has to do, of course, with our reproductive system, but also it has a lot to do with chromosomal composition and hormonal balance. So if you think that this is like a very strict or very binary classification, it really isn't, because if you try to put our experiences and our bodies into very strict boxes, you get cases like the one from I think it was an athlete from South Africa who got some issues with the Olympics due to her high levels of testosterone. Although it's completely natural, it's her biochemical composition. And I think it's the kind of issues that can arise when you have these very strict categorizations, right? So finally, there is gender identity, which it has to do a lot with the personal identification that we have for our own gender. And there is also gender roles, right? So this means that it's the expectations that society has on us based on our gender. And I think it is important to understand that gender is a social construct. And what this means is that there are differences among societies and communities of the expectations that we have based on our gender. No, there are many examples. For example, clothing. There are some clothes that are thought to be masculine and clothing that are supposed to be feminine, but they change depending on the society or the time where you are looking at this. It depends on the social context. There's also an issue with interaction, or how are we expected to interact with people of our same gender or other genders. This is an example from India, where a photographer went for a couple of times and met these. He came across this sign where heterosexual males grab their hands as a sign of friendship. And for the Indian community or society, it's actually common. I mean, he had a few examples of this behavior in the streets, whereas in some other regions, like for example in Mexico, I don't know if in Spain or some other places, this wouldn't be as common, right? So these little differences makes us understand that the expectations of our gender change from place to place. There's also gender roles, and I went with this image because just last weekend was Father's Day here in Mexico City, and one of the discussions that came around this date was that in Mexico, for women, there's around 84 days of maternity leave, whereas for males or men, it's only 9 days. So what this tells us is that at a societal level, at a laws level, the women are expected to be in charge, or it's more the responsibility of the woman to take care of the children, right? So there are some societies that are already fighting for equality and in this responsibility of paternity and maternity, but there's a long way to go still. And finally, some other example is self-care. So for male, it's a bit weird or not entirely accepted to be to take care of yourself and others. And while I went for all male examples because they're closer to my experience, I think women face this exactly the same, but I mean, they face this, but in the opposite way, right? So they are expected to be care providers for themselves and others. They're expected to be very warm and candid in how they treat other people. So it is something that this gender roles and this social construction of gender affects all of us basically. And some other way to see this as a social construct is when you look around communities where there are more than the usual female and male, right? So my favorite example here is the Mushi identity, which is from a very specific community in Oaxaca, Mexico. And it is a third gender. They are in their communities, they are not perceived as being male or female, and they play specific roles within their communities. And such as Mushe, there are some other identities around the world, like Fafafine in Samoa, the Two-Spirit in North America, the Hijra in India, etc. And throughout history, we've also seen some people that were assigned female at birth and took on a masculine role in order to achieve higher hierarchies in war or stuff like this. My example here is from Colonel Amelio Robles, who is thought to be one of the first transgender figures in Mexican history. He's from the Mexican Revolution, early last century, and while he was assigned female at birth, all his life after the war, he lived out as a male, and everyone respected that identity, right? So it's we see many examples from many different times where transgender has been a reality in our societies, right? So these sort of identities makes us think of gender not as two very strict and very not as binary, but as a spectrum, right? And my favorite metaphor, or how I like to put it, I think it's easy to understand, is how we learn concepts when we are kids, like for example, colors, right? When we are children, we learn that there are a certain set of colors and that there are key differences between these colors, right? So yellow is different from green, is different from orange and red. But as we grow older, we understand that there are more gammas of colors and more names to call a slightly different version of that color that we knew when we were children. And probably for most of our use cases, we don't need to expand on the definition of yellow. But it is important, and I think it's very powerful to understand that we can expand on these definitions, right? So if we go even deeper, there's all this theory of electromagnetic waves and how yellow is only a small range of the electromagnetic visible light. And I mean, probably we don't need this, and I'm not saying that we should start teaching electromagnetism to toddlers, because that's really not the point here. So unless you're working in optics or photonics or something like that, you don't need to understand this deep level of the concept. But in case someone, you or some other person, needs to expand on this definition, there is a lot of places to go for this, right? We could go study the optical nerves. We can go, I mean, there's a lot of places to look for a broader definition where we can make a better use of these words. And I think the same happens with gender, right? So there are a lot of things that involve our gender identity and our sexual identity. I brought out this map that it's, I think, a very interesting exercise, because it makes you reflect on how you see yourself regarding gender, right? So this is a gender unicorn that it's composed mainly of the gender identity, which is how strongly we identify with one or more genders. And this could be that you don't identify at all as a female or as a non-binary or asexual person, but you identify very highly with a male or a female. And it's also very flexible in how you can construct your own identity. There's also a gender expression, which is how do we present to the world according to the societal expectations of our gender. So you can be a woman who is not very feminine. You can be a man who is very feminine. I mean, that's a lot of gamma, and you can be as feminine or as not feminine, or not have a very strong gender expression when you present yourself. Then there is the sex assigned at birth, which is basically what we are told to be based on our apparent biological composition. And I say apparent because you can always start digging, and maybe you have some differences in your levels of testosterone, or some slightly different composition in chromosomes, etc. So this is, in my personal opinion, a bit arbitrary how we are put in one box or the other. And then finally, it's whom are we attracted both physically and emotionally, right? So I wanted to make a quick example with you of how would you go about filling this map. So for a gay male drag queen performer, his gender identity would be mostly male, although he could be he could also feel certain identity from female or other genders, and his gender expression would be both masculine and feminine. And this could go in different levels, right? So he could be hyper feminine and not as much masculine, or more on the non-binary spectrum, and that's like the great thing about this map, that you can go about exploring all the different possibilities that you have, right? And there's the sex he was assigned at birth was, of course, male, and he could be physically attracted, well, mostly for men, because here the example is he's gay. But yeah, I mean, once we have all this set of characteristics that build our sexual and gender identity, it is super easy to define actually what transgender is. So as I mentioned, it has to do a lot with the sex that we are assigned when we are born, right? And first I'm going to talk about what is not a transgender person, which is a cisgender person that comes from the Latin prefix cis, which means on the same side. And basically it's a person whose gender aligns with their assigned gender at birth. For a trans person, which is the opposite prefix on the other side of, it's basically a person whose gender does not align with their gender assigned at birth. I think after having all this context, it's super easy to actually say what a trans person is or isn't, right? And also I wanted to take some time to talk about some myths around trans people and trans community. There have been a lot of hate groups that put these trans issues like it's something new, right? And I know in Latin America, there's been some groups that call these like the gender ideology, and that we want to brainwash the society and a lot of things. But this is really not new. I mean, while the concept of gender being separated from sex came around 1950, transgender people have been all the time with our human history, right? So trans history is human history, actually. There are multiple records of people who pass as their opposite gender from civilization to civilization. And also archaeologists have found remains of people buried in their opposite gender for as long as 5,000, 9,000 years old, right? And this is in very strict ceremonial burials where you had this gender-specific ceremonial burials, and you can find people who were buried as their opposite gender. So this tells us that trans people have been around us, among us, in most of our time throughout history. Then being trans is a mental disorder. Well, this is, I think it's important to tell, because some years ago, I think around 30 years ago or something, homosexuality was also thought to be a mental disorder. And we moved past that definition, right? So I think it's time we start moving past that for trans as well, because last year, the World Health Organization announced that moving forward to remove trans as a mental disorder. So I think these concepts, these definitions evolve, and we should evolve with them, right? Now, I've been asked about if trans people reinforce gender stereotypes. And while this could be true, I mean, I think ultimately trans people just want to be treated as their true identity. So this means sometimes that they adhere to social expectations of their gender, but this is not true for everyone. I mean, while you can find some trans people that are hyper masculine or hyper feminine in order to be treated as their true selves, you can also find people who move past these borders and explore how to express their true identity without reinforcing gender stereotypes. And finally, that being trans is all about sex or fetishism. And I think this idea is really sexist in the sense that it is more aimed towards trans women, and it's mainly an issue of media portrayal and objectification, because what media is feeding us, the idea that media is feeding us about trans people is we're being fed that they are sex workers, and they are, you know, there's this idea that trans people is like criminals. I don't know if you've seen Hannibal Lecter or the movie Psycho. I mean, you have all these travestism seen as some sort of like deviation or something of the sort. And I think we have to move past these definitions. And of course, I'm not saying that transvestism is the same as transgender, right? Because those are different concepts, which one has to do with one has to do with gender expression, and one has to do with gender identity. But it is the idea that we have, and since there are not many people who know personally a trans person, it's the idea that remains in our brains, and we have to move past these portrayals, right? So finally, I want to end this presentation with a few key points about how can we be good allies to the trans community. And first, and it is what I wanted to focus my presentation. Oh, sorry, my cat is wants to be part of the of the whole Pride event. So understanding that gender is a complex, multidimensional human experience, which is what I wanted to focus my presentation around, to see past this binary classification and start asking ourselves and having like a more, I mean, moving past the very simplistic and very reductive definitions of what gender has been taught to us. Once you fill out the exercise and you question yourself and say, yeah, I think I'm a cisgender person, you can start using your privilege as a cis person to call out others on transphobia, because you can notice that there are many things that you don't have to worry about being cis, you know, right? Like, you don't have to worry about which bathroom should you go, or what will people think about when they first meet you, or what people might tell you on the streets. And maybe you do experience these things, and that's all the more reason to be fraternal with our trans siblings, because then it's about empathy and understanding that these are human identities, and these are humans that are just trying to live their best life. Then we need to talk about trans people and their history and their value, and move past the portrayal of trans stories, because they have been very very bad for our for how we see the trans community and trans people. And we should definitely give them spaces and listening to their stories, because who else is more fitted to tell that story than themselves, who know what are their needs, and who understand their history better than me or others, right? And lastly, as Rachel mentioned, there are many local groups and activist collectives who are working with these issues locally or globally. So if you have something to spare, I think it's a great time to start helping these groups. And I think that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Oops, sorry. Thank you very much, Gabriel. That was very interesting. Thank you very much. I do really need to say this, and I think all the audience will appreciate as well. Thank you for bringing to our lives the gender unicorn. Thank you. Also, very interesting about what you were saying about this gender as social construct. I do personally think that it is, as you were showing with your examples. And it catch my attention, this example of India, no? That the boys, they hold hands to express friendship, but they even have a recognized by law third gender called Ihra, that is like something, is not exactly trans, but it's something like in the middle. So I do certainly agree that's with a lot of things that you were mentioning. How is the situation of the trans community right now in Mexico?
I mean, we have, there is, in Mexico, it's a bit local, how we deal with these issues. So we have gay marriage, for example, not at a national level, but by region. And it's the same for trans community. So you can have like gender, legally change your gender in Mexico City, but not all everywhere else in the country. So this, I mean, we're getting there. So there is a precedent in Mexico City, but for the rest of the country, it's not as easy to go through this this gender
open, no? Right? We were talking about this, no? That sometimes in like local places, it's much difficult to come out and feel that freedom, no? I think we do have a couple of questions. So Lionel Corchia is asking, I think that trans people help all of us to have a wider definition of what gender identity is, help a lot thinking about what makes you a man or a woman. Definitely open the box.
Yeah, I totally agree with this. I think it's like the example that I mentioned, that it's moving past these very simplistic definitions that we're taught when we are children. So I think that it's very great about the trans community that they bring these sort of topics to the table, and for us to being able to reflect on that has to do with the work that they have been doing throughout the years.
That's totally true, no? That's the importance of the local communities. So Adria asks us, what do you think about the debate on social media related to trans women being excluded from the feminist movement?
Okay, so this is the main reason why I wanted to talk about trans community, because right now they are being a bit excluded for certain types of feminism. And while I don't think it's my place to talk or criticize feminism, I do think it's important to understand, because many of these ideas, I was just talking with a friend of mine who is a radical feminist a few weeks ago, and many of these ideas come from the theory of feminism, and how they have to bring the key points that are making it harder for women. So I think it's good to listen to these ideas and to understand the fundamentals. But in the end, if you think about it, trans people, the trans identities are something that exists. So for me, my personal view is that theorizing about identities that are already here, it's a bit, I don't know, for me, it's not as inclusive as it could be, and there is a space for everyone, right? I think, yeah, I won't criticize it, but I do think it has space to grow.
Cool, indeed. Thank you so much, Gabriel, Alexander, and Bea. Super interesting, so much to learn. And yes, indeed, Rachel also so interesting. What could Adevinta do to more trans inclusive?
That's a super good question. I think there are small things about, I think the first step is actually getting spaces for trans people, right? So no one better to talk about the needs of the trans community than the trans community itself. And some of the things that I know that are important, usually it's how to make them feel welcome. So start talking about gender-specific bathrooms or gender-neutral bathrooms. So you don't have to go as extreme as to say you just have one bathroom for everyone, but you can have one additional bathroom that is gender inclusive, and right. That makes life so much easier for trans people. But ultimately, I think the experience has to come from the trans community itself, and right. And what we have to do. For me, it would be super nurturing to have a trans person next year's Pride talking about their experience and how they have to navigate this world, because I think that's where there's more power and gives much more to the conversation.
Right, totally agree. We hope so too. So we hope that we can have someone from the community speaking up. Great presentation, Carlos. Okay, so we have a great presentation. Again, we have no more time for you, Gabriel. Thank you very much. It was super interesting. Thanks for your time, and enjoy Mexico. Yes, we have to go on because we don't have much time and we still have some content to cover. So I'm happy to introduce you the fourth member of the LGBT community. So Kim, come around. Yes. Slide, Adrian. Talking to my producer here. Hello. Yes, so we have Kim Johansson. Oh, yeah, sorry. We have Kim Johansson here with us, Director of Total Reward. Hello, Kim. Are you having a nice time?
Absolutely. Have it.
Pick up the microphone yourself. Yes. Okay, all right. Yeah, they heard my voice enough. Yeah. Okay, so how are you doing? Tell us a little bit about you and what do you do in the company?
I am Swedish. I joined the company just after the merger. Moved to Spain with my partner, Spanish, Barcelona. This is where I want to retire, and this seemed like a fantastic company to join. So I'm the luckiest man alive.
Oh, nice.
Seriously am.
Nice to know. What doesn't mean also for you to be part of this small community we are having here, the LGBT Adevinta community?
It's an interesting one because I always say, and I've said to you guys before, that I have had it easy, very easy. I grew up in Sweden. My parents were amazing. I've always been in sports. I never had problems in high school. It's been easy. That's how I see it. But then when I started addressing these sort of issues about my sexuality or not, I realized a lot of times why I had it easy is because other people has been fighting to make it easier. And things like, your presentation, Daniel, actually rang it home for me because, when I joined this company, I thought, you know what, they see my tattoos. There's no reason, if they can accept me for that, they know that the output is what matters at work, right? So it's not whether or not I have a husband or a girlfriend. I'm just going to let that go. And the interesting thing is, as soon as you let that go, you realize you can just focus on work. You don't have to filter your words anymore. You don't have to spend so much time. Do I fit in? You can't be yourself. So ultimately, that's all we want to be, right? But then you also realize that for so many damn years, did I put in my partner as my next of kin? No, I put in my sister or my mom. Did I do the same thing? It was he or I didn't lie, but I also just avoided getting to know people. So I think I'm lucky. And when it comes down to this group, I learn a lot, and I also get reacquainted with why this is important. I am the oldest one of this sort of founder group too, so I really appreciate what you guys are doing.
So you are in your 20-something?
I am my late 40s.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, don't say it. Don't say it.
Late 40s.
Okay, that's very inspiring. Yeah. How do you think also how do you think that the company how can we or make the company a more inclusive place?
I think that we always just have to remember that Adevinta is just a year old. You know, absolutely, we have Scandinavian roots where it's very much about inclusivity, gender equality, and all of these pieces. But we as employees also have a responsibility to raise our voices and come together like we've had here. I know it's not easy. Like as soon as we started, COVID started happening.
Yeah.
We sort of had a stop-start response. But the leadership are supportive. And I think we just need to come together because, of course, we are a combination of lots of different marketplaces, lots of companies. And I like the way we started. And I think this is a great start, really.
Mm-hmm. Nice. It's true because we come from different places, right?
Yep.
And different backgrounds. Cool. So in this new normal life, how are you going to celebrate Pride 2020?
I'm going to tell you all a story, right? So just before I got on this call, they force-fed me Pringles because apparently I was too drunk. Okay, so I've already started celebrating, guys. And
So that's our celebration.
yeah,
today.
this is my celebration
Okay,
today, and
good
then I'm
to
going to
know.
go home and
Celebrate
kiss my
with
husband
Pringles.
afterwards. That's it. Pringles and beers.
Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one. So just to wrap up, what's your reference in the LGBTQ plus world?
Damn you.
Than me is.
Yeah. I mean, I'm Swedish. So I should be absolutely ABBA, right?
Ah.
I despise those buggers. I really do. However, The Winner Takes It All is the best pop song ever written, in my view. But I know
they did a movie with Meryl Streep, you know.
I didn't watch that one. No.
Shame.
But I do remember that all my sisters and my mom really wanted George Michael, and I thought he was a great singer. But as soon as he came out as gay, I was very proud because I knew I could have him. So I moved to London straight away.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool.
Do you want to hear that story?
Yeah. You tell me later.
Yeah, I did.
So thank you very much, Kim.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for being here today and be part of this community. We are going to jump now to this question came out. Of course, the big community is fan of Eurovision because it's a contest that had ABBA on it as winners, and also it's been very inclusive every year. No, we have the first trans winner with Dana International. There's also Conchita Wurst that won from Austria. She was a little bit playing with the gender as well. So of course we love Eurovision, darling. Thank you for asking, Bea.
We do, yeah. And then I think the Swedes almost write 30%.
You always
of all
win. What's wrong with the
songs anyway.
Scandinavians?
I know.
Okay, thank you very much, Kim. Don't break your leg in the way. So we are going to jump to our last speaker, Paki. Hello, are you there?
Yeah.
You still alive? It's been a long meetup. Thank you for holding on. Now it's your turn. I'm handing over directly to you.
Okay. No. Wait a second. Sorry, I don't know what I did with. Okay, I need to close it. Yay! Hooray for problems. Okay.
We have some problems connecting. What happens?
Okay.
You can. Here you go.
Okay, so I'm Paki. I work as a web developer in Barcelona, working on the messaging component with Miguel Angel, actually. And I'm also a lesbian. I would have loved to do a talk about, I don't know, lesbian erasure or even about women in programming, but I don't have the knowledge. I don't know it about it, and I didn't have the time to prepare all of it. So I'm sorry if you are going to go through a technical talk that I hope it's going to be short and you will learn something about it. So websites are universal. You build them and expecting that someone is going to go in there from a lot of different devices and browsers. It's not like, for example, a video game. To play it, you need a specific device like the PlayStation 4, not the 3 or the 1, not an Xbox, you need PlayStation 4. But for a website, anybody with an internet connection and internet browser can try and access. And usually we think desktop or tablets, but the range goes wider and wider, while we still have the old ones. So there's still people using Internet Explorer, like Internet Explorer 9 there. And that's a problem that web developers face when trying to do it, because you can just try to not let people use your browser if they are not using a specific one, but that's not nice, right? Or sometimes when you use some browser, it might not work. This is from the Spanish tax agency, and they have these huge instructions about what operating system or browser you need to use to work on their platform. And this is not acceptable. This is not good. Most of the time, it's not going to happen. Most of the time, things will just look a little bit weird. I'm sure everybody has experienced that. Like some text goes over other text, or in the worst of cases, a button disappears, so it's not working, so you cannot use that website. And as a developer, we are always really worried about it. We want as many people as possible to be able to use our websites. And of course, product people want that too, and the UI people like Miguel Angel get really annoyed when things look weird and they are not usable. So here in the company, we can use this Source Labs tool, which is amazing for it. And I'm going to show you through a live demo because I think it's more interesting than just telling you with a video. So you can open it. I don't know if it is available for everybody on the whole company. Of course, you have to ask for it, to ask for access, but if it is a paid one, so maybe there's some point where you can use this. So the first tool we have is the live testing. This can be used also for apps, like for Android or whatever. So for example, let's try to go into Leboncoin, and as you can see, there's a lot of browsers here. Each one will give us a different operating system to choose, and there's also a good range of screen resolutions. Of course, I would love to have more and more browsers on even really small or really big resolutions, because people right now is starting to use, I don't know, your smartwatch or your smart TV to access. But they cover more or less the most common combinations. And you just start session, and it will take a while depending on the browser here. Oh, I'm using Microsoft Edge on Mac. Okay, that's interesting. And as you can see, it is a browser like any other browser. I could just go to Google and navigate with it. I'm just looking for Google on Bing. I love this. I love Microsoft. And some nice features we have is we can invite someone, so we can be different people watching the same screen, the same browser, to try to, for example, reproduce some strange behavior we are having on our computer. We can take screenshots, it has been saved, or once it is done, this you can see it again. So we have all these recordings of our session. We can go through there. We could even go and open the screenshot we took, so we can share those screenshots. And in this case, there's not a lot of things on the comments because this is a live session. We can always use the live tool with some internal tool, like you are developing your website and you are just running it locally. You are not running it on the public internet, or more common in our case, through Heimdall, through this nice guy. We have a lot of websites that you can only access through that. So in this case, I'm going to run my project. I'm going to run messaging. It's going to run locally. This is so you know that you can access anything in the world. Before we doing that, we need to what is called open a tunnel. It is just a way for Sauce Labs to connect to your computer and being able to access to the internet through your computer. So you will bypass any VPN, anything. It's like you are really accessing through your computer. You have the steps here. I'm going to do it really quick because, of course, I have it automated because I use it a lot. And what is open, you can see it here, okay? And now we go. I use my local host, which nobody will be able to access. Okay, this is not ready yet. Now it's ready. I have to select the proxy, the tunnel that I'm using. And again, as before, I can see my website or my app on the selected browser. No. So this is a local host. So if you try from your computer to access to local host, of course, it's not going to show this thing. And we have exactly the same functionality. So I could share my session with someone else so they can see the work that I'm doing and how it looks on different browsers or things like that. Same screenshots, same reviewing later, same everything. And this also works with mobile things or mobile devices. The real one are paid extra, so we don't have access to that, but we can have emulators, which is something that mobile developers use every day. So you can have an Android with the emulator and then choose a different. There's a limitation here. Well, this is going to take a lot to start because emulators take longer than just simulating a computer. The problem here is that you can only use the default browser on that mobile phone. So if you open an Android one, you will use just Chrome. You cannot, for example, try with Firefox on Android, which is a totally possible real-life combination. But you still have it here, and this is like a normal phone with all the default apps and everything, like the camera, whatsoever. So this is, right now it is useful, but this is still one more functionality I want to show you, and it's that it can be used for automated tests. So you can have your set of tests that run like what is called end-to-end test, which is like a QA person will go through the website or the app checking everything. You can always also have it done with a computer. So if you can configure correctly, it takes a while to a little bit of tweaking usually, but you can configure your test to run through Sauce Labs, and in this case, I'm going to set the record video to true. It's just for the demo, and of course, I'm I'm not going to tell you how to set up everything because it really depends on what framework you are using, what libraries you're using, blah, blah, blah. But it's compatible with most of them. And here, if we go to the automated list and go to the test result, you can see that there are some of them already running, and we can go and we'll see it running live, and they are going to get saved. Yeah, this is finished. Here you see all the commands that got executed, like click here, try to find this element, load this URL. And we could take screenshots in the middle of the test, and we will have access to those screenshots here. So really useful also not only to test your app on different browsers automatically, but also to know what is failing, what it fails, because you have the record here. You know, you can go through detail. This is all the configuration you're setting, just in case, blah, blah, blah. It's a really, really useful tool. I'm going to stop this because if not, it's going to run for a lot and it's going to take resources for other people. So wrapping up, some pros of using Source Labs in your day-to-day work is that you can test multiple browsers, multiple screen sizes, multiple operating system. You can also use Android and iPhone, iPad, whatever, emulators, do screenshots, record sessions, share them. You can use it for live or automated testing, and it also works through the proxy without any complex setup. Setting up the tunnel is super easy. It's just install this, run this command. It's not a problem at all. Some cons that I find is that, for example, as I show you, using real Android or iPhone devices is not allowed for us because it's an extra price you have to pay. But usually with the emulators is good enough. Also, they only have popular browsers. If you pay attention to the list, there was Chrome, Safari, Firefox, Edge, and Internet Explorer, but there are more browsers than that. For example, there's Opera, or there's Brave, or I don't know, in China there's this one that I don't know, but it's super popular. On mobile, you can choose the browser, and configuring it can be a bit painful. With the automated test, with the live one is super easy and direct. And of course, it's slower than using it on your computer. If I want to test something on Safari, since I have a Mac, I can open Safari directly and test it there, and it will be faster. But if I need to test it on an Internet Explorer, I don't have it. And I cannot install Internet Explorer on Mac. You can install newer versions of Edge, not Internet. And so I will need to use Source Lab, or if I didn't have that tool, I will need to, I don't know, find someone with a Microsoft computer and borrow it. And that said, I hope I didn't bore you a lot.
No, you did not. Thank you very much. Oh yeah, sorry, it's because we had an echo problem in the room. Thank you very much, Peggy. Really interesting. I think we do have few questions for you from the chat. So Adria is asking, how is it even possible that a governmental web page is only available in some browsers?
Because it's the Spanish government. That's
not only the Spanish government, other governments.
There's a legend that goes that the person that crafted the software, not the website, but the software that you use to pay your taxes on your computer, just did it. Just this legend that it was just one person in a few months, and then he went home like on holidays for long, and then he just disappeared and left the job, and nobody knows how to change that software because it's a mess.
Oh my God.
I suspect that the web version is basically using is just like a nice interface for that software. So probably it's because they are doing something really, really tricky underground to reuse the same backend, let's say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that a story on Wikipedia? If it is, I believe it 100%.
And I can write it down if you want.
Yeah, and I believe it 100%. Yeah. Someone else was asking if Source Labs is open source or it's not.
No, it's not open source. Well, it's not open source as far as I know. Maybe the company is. I mean, for sure you have to pay for the license.
And then you mentioned that you have to pay also for emulate iOS or Android devices, not
Yeah, there are
right?
different categories. You know, like on the lower ones, you have limited testing minutes. The license that Adevinta has, or the hub, I don't know, has it's somewhere in the middle where we don't have access to the physical mobile devices, but we don't have any limitation on limits.
Okay, cool. So I don't think there's more questions. If there's some questions that pop up, we will share them with you. So thank you very much appreciated that you put your time, and thank you also for holding on until the end. So we are now coming to an end of this special Pride event. So I wanted to remind you that there's a raffle that is going to happen with all the comments that you share in the YouTube. We took note of all the people that share a comment in the YouTube chat, and we will announce the winner tomorrow. So stay tuned. We will contact you personally, and Rachel, we will kindly send you your prize. And I remind you also that there's another prize coming. We will share more stuff. You have more information also in the description box down here, but basically share your pictures of videos enjoying Pride 2020 in a folder. There will be more information shared in Slack and also in the Adevinta Daily tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. And also, I would like to take some seconds to thank you, these people. Special huge thanks to everybody that made this event possible today, especially to the speakers that put a lot of effort and energy preparing their presentations, but also the people that you didn't see on camera, and they were also helping a lot by promoting and sharing, not only today, but also during the whole month, LGBT activities, let's say, to encourage and give visibility to our community within the company. So really appreciate it. Thank you very much to all of you. I won't read every name. And that's it from me. Thank you also for standing me during this long 2 hours and 10 minutes. Bring back everybody on camera. Thank you very much. And bye-bye. Enjoy Pride. Happy Pride 2020.
Happy Pride 2020.
Woo!
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.